everyone, to People on Dating. I'm your host, Will Mraz. And for those of you who are tuning in for the first time, this podcast is about the ups and downs of dating and how to navigate through it. Today, my guest is Karen Bigman. Did I get your last name right?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. She's a certified sex educator through the Sexual Health Alliance, an intimacy and menopause coach, and a midlife sexpert for both men and women. She hosts the podcast Taboo to Truth, Life and Sex After 50, which sheds light on what sex, desire, and connection look like after 50. Her work is centered on destigmatizing sexuality, intimacy, desire, pleasure in midlife and beyond. She also teaches sex ed masterclass for adults. Woo, Karen, you do everything. How are you?
I tried. Thank you for having me.
Well, it's my pleasure. So, Karen, tell us a little bit about yourself. What was that aha moment? What was that journey like to become a sexual coach, I guess I could say. One of the things he's doing.
Yeah. I call myself more of an expert than a coach, but I suppose it's the same, different packaging. My journey's kind of odd, actually. I had nothing to do other than having had sex when I was younger with sex, and had done various things. About 10 years ago, I certified as a life and divorce coach, and I worked in relationships and divorce for a few years and found it quite sad and depressing and stopped doing that just pre-COVID. And it kind of gave me this break to figure out what I want to do next. And that what I want to do next took about 5 years or 4 years. But eventually I landed, I ended a long relationship and started spending a lot of time in a rather conservative area in California. And I'm from New York City. I'm very outspoken. I'm very say it like it is. And there were a couple of aha moments that converged. I was at a book club meeting here in California, and the book that was recommended. Can I talk about anything on here? Do I have to censor? No. Okay. You never know. Take the kids out of the room. So there was a very racy scene, but the scene was a wife giving a husband a blowjob. And the woman who recommended the book was absolutely mortified that she'd recommended a book that had a racy sex scene. Now, everybody there was in their at least 40s, if not 50s and 60s. So that was thing one. Thing two was that I reconnected with an old flame who said to me, well, I thought women in their 50s didn't want sex anymore. Couple that with the menopause conversation, which had started to emerge, and people were really starting to know what it is and to say the word and to really talk about it much more in the media. And also looking back on what my original journey was, which was, and I'm sort of going to stop the first part and go back to the past. When I first got divorced, I reconnected with an old flame, very cliched. We reconnected on Facebook. Both of us were ending long marriages. Both of us had relatively sexless marriages. And we started a relationship and, of course, wanted sex everywhere, like pulling over on the side streets in Manhattan in the backseat of the car. We were like teenagers. And I started having trouble with orgasm. My first line of defense was go to the gynecologist. She was like, "Oh, it's in your head. You're going through a divorce." And eventually she led me to a sexual medicine practice. And being in that practice helped me really talk about sex, because they ask you some, obviously very, very specific questions about whether you have orgasmed, how you orgasm, et cetera. And then they gave me a blue bullet vibrator and sent me to the exam room next door and said, "Try this out." And I literally came back, like, I think it was less than 5 minutes, and said, "You just changed my life." So that plus I was testosterone deficient, which is another, we lose estrogen and progesterone as we go through menopause. We also lose testosterone. And so combine learning about how to actually stimulate myself properly, and then getting the hormones. And I wanted to spread the word. So I invited the sex therapist to my house for dinner and had all my girlfriends there. And I just started talking about it. So when I got to this point, fast forward again to pushing 60, I'm in California and all these things are converging. I'm like, this is the moment. Now I know what I want to do. Now I want to start talking about this. And I picked up my phone and I just started talking. And now, almost 150 episodes later, I've been doing it for 2.5 years. I certified right after I started the podcast. I certified both as a menopause coach and a sex educator through the Sexual Health Alliance. And I found my passion, like not just in the bedroom, but in the world.
I like that. Yeah, some journey. And today's topic is a good one, right? Life and sex after 50. And yeah, I remember you were saying something earlier about, or it was your part, or the guy that you, I guess, reconnected about having sex after 50. And I remember I was dating this woman, this is years ago. She was like in her mid to late 40s, and she was as horny as ever. I mean, my God, I had to keep up. And, which meant for me at that time, I was in my late 40s and I had to like work out and exercise to keep up with this. Like I said, she was only 4 years younger than me. So, and even a few years later in my 50s, again, I met someone and same thing. She wanted sex every time I went to her place and she came to my place. So it seems that the desire for us after 50 doesn't die out. Am I in the ballpark there, or it depends on the person, I guess?
Well, obviously, it depends on the person. The people
Yeah.
that I see are people that it may have changed and they want to continue having sex. There are a lot of people that give up, which I think is really sad.
Yeah.
And also, sex is good for your health. But let's take those people out of the picture for a minute. Sex never doesn't stop. It just really changes how you feel when you have sex, how you respond to getting engaged in an intimate encounter, how your emotions are. Women, interestingly, some of them get really horny when they start going through menopause and go back on hormone therapy because they're getting those hormones back. Some of them just rediscover, lubrication, things that were holding them back from sex. And then post-menopause, there's and it didn't sound like your partner was post-menopausal yet, probably not in
Yeah.
her 40s.
Yeah.
But there is evidence in the research that we get kind of I don't give a fuck attitude anymore. We know what we want and we're going to ask for it. And if, we were taught to hide our sexuality, girls aren't supposed to want sex. And now it's like, you think I'm a slut? I am. I don't care.
Yeah.
So I think there's a bunch of things going on. And the more that we encourage and the more that we have sex and the more that we talk about sex, the less taboo it becomes, which hence the podcast.
Yeah, and it's funny that you say that because I think growing up in the, let's say, 80s and 90s and even early 2000s, it was like so reserved. It seemed like so reserved. Obviously, with the internet, obviously, I'm thinking that some of the girls are doing it maybe for clicks or whatever. But uh, if they are telling the truth, that they like, yeah, I want to have sex, I want to do a threesome and foursome, and it's like women are feeling more liberated to show or to feel that they want sex more, because nobody on the women's side, it's not talked as much. Am I correct there? Because they still think maybe in 2026 it's still taboo. You're supposed to be a lady, on the outside, but once you're home, then you're a porn star.
What was that song? Freak in the.
Yes, it was. I forget, yeah, I know. Yeah, I know what the song you're talking about.
I
Yeah,
can't remember the words.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, I think it depends. I certainly I'm 62, and my generation, it was something you did not talk about, and now I'm seeing all these couples where their sex life is virtually dead. They're roommates, and they're upset about it, but they don't know how to talk about it. So there's no question that it's still something that's embarrassing. It's kind of funny. I'm doing a seminar for the Sexual Health Alliance, and I'm giving them some coaching tips. And one of the tips that I say is not everyone is as comfortable talking about sex as you are. If you're in a world where you're always talking to people who are sex positive, who are into dating and relationships, you're going to be talking about sex. But when you get out in the world, like I've been on dates where I tell people what I do and they change the subject right away. So it really depends. And oh, by the way, women especially are censored more than men on social media when it comes to talking about sex and female related sexual health issues.
Gee, it's 2026. I mean, still.
Talk to Meta.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That makes sense. So, yeah, one of the things I would like to know more, uh, and we're talking with Karen Bigman, and today's topic again is a good topic: sex and life after 50. I would say more sex and sex after 50. Um, when menopause does hit a woman, does the sex drive die down? It still evens out? If you could explain that to me, because like I said, I met women that were postmenopausal, and that was still as horny as ever. And then I met some that was, still could, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? I want to be a little bit a PC here. Let's say they still had their period,
Uh-huh.
weren't as horny. Again, I guess my question is, I guess it depends on the person again.
Well, yeah, I mean, it always depends on the person, but there's several things going on. First of all, some women suffer more than other women through menopause. I have a girlfriend who's in her early 70s now, and she never barely experienced menopause. Like now she's got some dryness, so she's dealing with that. But other than that, she had no symptoms. And then I have other friends who couldn't sleep, couldn't, like were just miserable, sweating. I mean, one of the first blog posts I wrote was about how I had a hot flash right after an orgasm after having sex with someone. So it really depends. But several things can be happening, and some of them are more debilitating than others. But one is a loss of libido, loss of interest in sex altogether. So that is definitely something that can happen when your hormones change. And by the way, your hormones don't just drop. For women, for men, it's a gradual drop in testosterone, but for women, it's very, very erratic. So you're all over the place in mood, probably in horniness, and so that is changing. Your ability to orgasm, that was my issue. Then you've got just sleep disruption, mood disorders, pain, muscle pain. There's all these different things that are happening, ringing in your ears, like things that are like you just don't feel like having sex, even if you're horny. It's like I just can't even imagine. Like my back hurts so much, my knee hurts. I'm schwitzing. Like I just can't do this, right?
Right.
Um, and then what also tends to happen around this time, especially in long-term relationships, and that wasn't the situation with you, was that it's like I've been having the same sex with this guy or this gal for like so long. It's so fucking boring. It's the same script. We kiss. He touches my boobs. Maybe he goes down on me for 5 minutes. He gets inside me. He ejaculates, and then I go back to doing the dishes, and he goes back to his game. Like that's the sex. Like it's not that exciting. So, but if said partner, instead of going back to the game, comes in the room with a new toy or something exciting and novel, then I might wake up and go, oh, this looks like it could be fun. So it could be any number of things. And I will say, dating, like it's kind of fun to date when you're at this age because you get to have that new relationship energy with each new person. So, that may also contribute to you finding horny women. It's
No, that,
like,
that definitely makes sense. I like that. So, Cameron, do we at a certain age then how do we bring toys into the bedroom then just to spice things up, especially if the woman or now we got to bring lubrication, right? Because both sexes are going to need it. How does that conversation, makes its way around, especially when you might be a little bit conservative on the toys or any type of lubrication.
so I'm going to start, actually, I'm going to back up because I've
Yeah.
been single on and off now for 10 years, 12 years. And so as I've gotten into this work, of course, I'm much more comfortable with talking about sex. And when I meet someone who learns about my podcast, they want to listen to every single episode. And I have to say, back up because that's not exactly who I am. So even for me, I have to confess that it can be, and it has been a hard conversation. So the way that I start it usually is with the STI conversation, sexually transmitted infections. I make sure
Okay.
that is the first conversation I have. Nothing comes off below the waist until we both have our test. So that like starts the conversation in a dating context. It's different when you're with a long-term partner. And then it's really that for me, if there's no vibrator, I'm not going to have an orgasm. So that is just part. And what's so funny is like as much as in the beginning it was something embarrassing, I find the guys are like, go girl, or like, I want to try that. It's like just adding something more fun. And there's a million different kinds of vibrators and toys and things that you can add. It doesn't have to be handcuffs to make your bedrooms, spicy. It can be all kinds of things. Lubricant, you mentioned and by the way, none of these things are, you don't have to wait until you're in midlife to do any of these things. These are all things you can throw in at whatever age you are. But lubricant is absolutely critical, and it should just be standard operating procedure because certainly I mean, it makes everything more slippery, so it feels better for the male partner. And for women, because we get dry, we tend to get more tears in the vagina on penetration, which can lead to more infections getting in. And so you may be subject to more urinary tract infections. So lubricant is absolutely critical. You don't want those tears, whichever direction you're going, front, back. Lubricant is absolutely necessary.
Yeah. So Karen, so after a divorce, right? If you have clients or people you're talking to, friends and all that, um, I guess it depends on the couple. But are there sex again? I know it depends on the sex drive of a man or woman. Do they tend to wane a little bit after divorce? Maybe if it's a bitter divorce, or like you said, might be a sexless marriage. Now, how to get back on? Do they get back on the wagon then? Especially if it's a woman, and the guy is busy, mowing the lawn or whatever, and watching the sports, the baseball game, the football game.
Uh, I think you just do. You just, whenever I meet someone who's newly divorced, man or woman, like if someone comes along and they want to date me and they've just gotten separated or divorced, I tell them go out and get laid. Go out and have some fun safely.
Yeah,
Go out and just go out and try it again. See what it feels like to be touched. So like you'll want it. I mean, if you don't want it, you're probably not dating, right? So, but if you want it, like and it's okay. I mean, this is one of the hardest things to teach, but the most important is communicating. It's okay to say, you know what? I haven't been with anybody since in 30 years other than my partner, and I want to have sex again, but I'm nervous. And you want someone who's going to respect you and say, I understand, and I'm going to respect your wishes, and we can go slowly. Or you got people who are going out and trying all kinds of new things. I have a friend that discovered that she was bi when she got divorced, and then she decided she was kinky, and then now she's in a second open marriage, and they do all sorts, move to the desert, and they're just hanging out in kink clubs, whatever they're doing. So it's like a a sexual awakening. It's like a new beginning for you, and I encourage you to do it. But I like the one thing that I keep reiterating this safely. I do know several people who, particularly women who contracted herpes later in life because they didn't think about it. They're like, I can't get pregnant anymore. So you always want to be very careful about sexually transmitted infections. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I like the idea that you mentioned. Hey, let's before we go any further, let's get a couple of tests here and there and all that. So one of the things, Karen, and I notice depending on the person that I hang out with, friends, or whatever, it seems like this a sexual drive might just die out because of a bad relationship and all that. And there's some women that I find it very attractive, and they're in their mid 50s, but it seems like they just swore off of men. Not that I'm not saying they hate them because they're still a group of us, but in terms of getting any type of sexual access, if that makes sense, it seems like they're closed off. Have you ran into something like that with some of your clients or female friends? And
Well, there might.
how do we get them to open up again?
Okay, well, if they feel that way, they're probably not coming to me because they're not interested in sex, right? So I do see that, and like I said, it makes me, I'm sad for them because they're missing out on that beautiful connection that you could be having and the pleasure of it. Um, but sometimes it's not something that bothers them. If it doesn't bother them and they're okay without it, it's when it bothers you when you're like, I wish I want sex, but I really don't. Then we can start to talk about what you can do about it. But if it's not everyone, it's not important to everybody. I know couples who have long-term loving relationships and they they don't have sex, but let me just qualify that as that sex meaning intercourse. They
Right.
may still have some sort of intimacy, and that may be how they define it. But I do see a movement of women who have sworn off men, and I like men too much. I just couldn't do it. I mean, like, God
There
bless you. I
you
love my
go.
girlfriends, but
You being honest, I love that about you. So,
that's
Karen, talk more about your podcast. How did that come about? What was the drive, your aha moment to do the show?
so I talked a little bit about it earlier about my turning 60 and trying to really embrace my passion. And it started out being a conversation about women and menopause and sex, and then it just evolved. And now I talk about everything from like I'm trying to remember. I'm focusing a little more on men's issues in midlife and men teaching men to be more vulnerable and open and communicate. But I've interviewed male sexual dysfunction doctors, male relationship, sex and relationship coaches. I've interviewed a dominatrix. I just interviewed someone who has a multi-orgasmic lover course about how to become, for a man to become multi-orgasmic. I just go where the wind blows me, and it feels good. If I don't, interview people that don't interest me.
Right.
This is something I do as a labor of love. It's really hard to make money in podcasting. I just have fun with it. And more importantly, what really drives me is that my mission to change that narrative that we have, that sex and aging are not separate, that we can continue to have sex. And I just spoke with a doctor who has two 96-year-old female clients that are still sexually active. Like, it does not have to end.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
You might need knee pads and pillows and a couple of wrist braces, but hey,
And a couple
whatever
and
works.
some Ben Gay or Vic
Exactly.
afterwards. But yeah, it's as long as it still works. Well, first of all, Karen, I want to thank you so much for being on People on Dating. And before I let you go, we talked about your podcast. Anything else you want to promote? Any book tours, Oprah visits, anything like that?
Let's put you Oprah into the universe, right? Oprah, I'm waiting for you. My website is taboo-to-truth.com. I have an adult sex education course that I put a lot of love into. It's 6 modules, everything from understanding your sexual beliefs all the way through to dating. And there's a whole section on things to do to have fun, spice things up. It's for men and women and single and partnered. So that's a big one. And then in February, I should be coming out with a men and menopause, of course, to help men support their partners through menopause. And yeah, I'm going to be on the Sexual Health Alliance on January 25th. I don't know when this comes out. I'll have spoken
Yeah,
on
it'll
that.
be before that. Yeah, definitely.
So I will be teaching a module there on a new framework I've come up with for sex and midlife, and I'm just having fun.
No, sounds good. Anything else you want to talk about or promote? Is that it?
That's what I got right now.
And say that website one more time.
My website is Taboo to Truth. My podcast is Taboo to Truth, Life and Sex After 50. And that is on all podcast platforms. I have a YouTube channel. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and what's the other one? TikTok at Taboo to Truth, and LinkedIn, it's Karen Bigman.
Yeah, I'll definitely put that on the show notes. Well, first of all, Karen, I want to thank you so much, for being on People on Dating. I really appreciate it. And before I let you go, one more last word about sex and life after 50.
Oh,
I
you just want me to come up?
You can handle it. Come on now.
That not to give up, that sex is a really important part of your life. It's good for your health. It helps you release happy hormones. It helps you stay lubricated. It helps you stay connected, whether it's connection to yourself or connection to a partner or many partners. Keep doing it.
No, sounds good. Well, again, Karen, thank you so much for being on People on Dating. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, bye bye.